Hello, our most developed student. My name is Confident and welcome to Tech College. This lesson is a revision of the Mathematics N3 question paper that was written in July 2018, and the aim of this particular video is to provide some suggested solutions. Now, we have more of these videos on previous question papers for Mathematics N3. Should you request more of these videos, you can visit our website as shown, which is www.egorlentech.co.za, or you can send us an email on info@egorlentech.co.za, or you can call us on the number that is shown on the screen. Also, we have got a complete Mathematics N3 curriculum. So if you want to revise or to learn from home, you can also purchase from us from a fraction of a price the whole curriculum for the mathematics in N3. So if you combine the whole curriculum as well as the revision previous question papers, you will be in a position to get good marks in your final exam. Now please note that errors may be present in this memo that I am providing or in this video. And also note that the errors that are here are not the responsibility of the Department of Higher Education and Training, but of the person who is making the memo, and in this case it is me. So should there be any errors picked in this edition, please be free to send some suggested solutions and we'll be able to make the necessary additions. Also, please note that no part of this video may be reproduced in any form, whether by print, by recording, by photo print, by email, without the written permission from the college. And as I previously mentioned, we can sell these videos to you for a fraction of a price. So just send us an email and we will be able to assist you. Now, this particular video is a video that will focus on the mathematics in N3, and the question paper that was written on the 23rd of July in 2018. It was a morning paper. Now, the simple instructions that you must always remember is that your math N3 is a 3-hour paper and the total marks is 100 marks. Now, you are supposed to answer all the questions. You have to read all the questions carefully, number the answers according to the numbering system used in the question paper. Questions may be answered in any order, so it doesn't matter which order you use, but do not separate subsections. Show all calculations and intermediary steps. All graph work must be done in the answer book, therefore no graph paper is provided in N3. All final answers must be accurately approximated to 3 decimal places rounded off. Diagrams are not drawn to scale and you need to write neatly and legible. Now let us look at the first question that was asked in this particular July 2018 paper. The first one are the common questions whereby they usually ask you to simplify, and in this case you are supposed to simplify some algebraic fraction. Now, looking at that this given algebraic fraction, the first thing that you need to do is for you to recognize a few things that on how to solve this particular problem. The first one is you are given x squared minus 4, and with x squared minus 4, it is simple to note that this is a difference of 2 squares, which is x squared minus 2 squared, which is x minus 2 and x plus 2. That is a difference of 2 squares. Also, now let me just put it this side. So for the first one, it will be x minus 2, if I can write it there, x plus 2. These will be my solutions that I'll be putting them on one side because my space is limited. Now, also, the next one you are given is 3x squared plus 4x minus 4. You are supposed to factorize that. And the best method that I usually prefer to use is the product sum method. Let me go through that in brief. So let us look at the product. Product means terms. Sum means plus. And then we're going to look at the factors. So using the product sum method, I'm going to go in detail on one of the the first problem that I'm factorizing here. Then in the second and the third one, I'm going to quickly go through it to show you how I would have solved this particular problem. Now, so what do I have? I'm looking for two numbers that when I multiply them, I'm going to multiply, okay, let me start, okay. I'm going to multiply my product. My product is the first number and the last number. So you can see I'm multiplying 3x squared times minus 4. And if you multiply that, I'm going to get a negative 12x squared. And the remaining number, as you can see in the square, it is a positive 4x. Now, I'm looking for two numbers so that when I multiply them, product, I'll get a negative 12. And when I add them, which is my sum, I'll get a positive 4. So there are two numbers that can do that. So how do you go about it? You are going to look at the factors of 12, because the product, you can find the factors. So let's look at the factors of 12. It's 1 times 12 will give me a 12. 2 times 6 will give me a 12. 3 times 4 will give me a 12. 4 times 3 now will give me a 12. So automatically, this one you don't consider, because 4 times 3 is the same as 3 times 4. So these are the three numbers that I'm having. From these three numbers, as I said, when I multiply them, I need to get a negative 12. So all of them, I can multiply them to get a negative 12 as long as one number is negative. So the negative 12 is not a problem. But the key one is the sum. The sum of those numbers must be 4. So when I add those two numbers, I must get a 4. 1 and 12 cannot give me a 4, no matter how I try to add it. 2 and 6 can give me a 4. 3 and 4 cannot give me a 4, no matter how I try. So the numbers that I'm looking for are 2 and 6. Now I have to play around the signs. Remember, when I multiply them, I must get a negative, which means one of the numbers must be negative. And then when I add them, I must get a positive 4, which means the bigger number of these two numbers must be positive. In this case, the bigger number is 6. 6 must be positive, and 2 must be negative. So if I say negative 2x times positive 6x, you can see that I will get negative 2 times positive 6, I'll get a negative 12x squared, minus 2 plus 6, I'll get a positive 4. So those are the two numbers actually that I'm looking for. So now instead of 4x, I'll rewrite my expression as 3x squared. Now where there was 4x, I'm going to write minus 2x plus 6x. Remember my factors, those two numbers that I got, minus 4. Then I factorize by grouping here. The first one, what is common is x. The first two, x into 3x squared is 3x minus 2. I look at the last two. What's common between 6x and minus 4 is plus 2. And I must get something similar to 3x minus 2. So 2 into 6x is 3x. And 2 into 4 is negative 2. As you can see, the two are the same. So what is my final version? When I factorize, I've got 3x minus 2, and outside the bracket, I've got x plus 2. So this is what we mean, or what I mean by the product sum method. So let me write it on top again. Here, I've got 3x minus 2, and then I've got x plus 2. So that is my factorized version of 3x squared plus 4x minus 4. Let me quickly remove that so that I can quickly factorize also the other expression. The other expression I'm given from the top is x squared minus 4x plus 4. I'm supposed to factorize. Now quickly, my product is equal to plus, as it says, 4x squared. You can leave out the plus or just say 4x squared means positive. My sum is equal to negative 4x, and my factors, I'm looking for the factors of 4, which is 1 times 4, which is 2 times 2. As you can see, I must add to get a what? I must add them to get a 4. So the first one cannot give me a 4, but the second one can give me a 4. 2 plus 2 is 4, but I need a negative 4, which is minus 2 minus 2. Minus 2 times minus 2 is a positive 4. Minus 2 plus minus 2 is a negative 4. So when I write it, I'll have x squared minus 2x minus 2x plus 4. Factorizing by grouping, the first two what's common is x. I have x minus 2 minus 2, then I've got x minus 2, so I've got x minus 2, and I have x minus 2. So I have factorized by grouping in the last part. Now I've got x minus 2, I've got x minus 2. Remember, in your final book or in your answer book when you're writing your exams, you must not erase, or you must show all the working. So this working that I'm erasing is supposed to be shown. The last one is 2x squared minus 11x plus 14. Again, what is my product? I'm multiplying two numbers, which is this first and the last number, which is 28x squared, or positive 28x squared can be another way of putting it. And then what is my sum? Is equal to minus 11x. So what are my factors? Factors of 28 is 1 times 28, is 2 times 14, 3 cannot do, is 4 times 7, 5 cannot do, 6 cannot do, it's 7 times 4. So these are the factors of 28. Now I'm looking for two numbers, remember? When I multiply them, I'll get a 28, which is all these three different versions. But when I add them, the key is the addition, which will give me the factors. The addition is, it must be minus 11. You can see that the product is positive. So if the product is positive, it's either both numbers are positive or both numbers are negative. Because when I multiply a positive and a positive, I get a positive. Or when I multiply a negative and a negative, I get a negative. So for me to get a positive product, it means both of my numbers must either be negative or positive. But my sum also tells me something, that the sum is minus 11. So because of that negative, it means both numbers must be negative. So the first one is totally out. I cannot get a sum of 11 from 1 and 28. The second one, 2 and 14, I cannot get a sum of 11 because, for example, 14 minus 2 is a 12. It cannot give me that. The key there is 7 and 11. If I add 7 plus 4, I'll get 11. 7 plus 4 is 11, but I need minus 11. So it will be minus 4 minus 7. So those are my factors, which will be 2x squared minus 4x minus 7x, representing the minus 11 plus 14. Then I factorize what's common in the first is 2x, x minus 2 minus 7, it must also give you x minus 2. Always the brackets must always match. So it's x minus 2 and it's 2x minus 7. So that is what we have as x minus 2 and 2x minus 7. So now, with what we have been given, I'm going to rewrite the above expression using the factorized division. So what do I have? The first one, remember, it gave us x minus 2, x plus 2 over, the other one gave us 3x minus 2 and x plus 2, and then it says divided by, the top one gave us x minus 2 and then it also gave us x minus 2 just to divide over. It gave me x minus 2 to x minus 7 times 3x minus 2 over, now 6x minus 21, you factorize that, you can see, take out the common factor there, 3 is common, which is 2x minus 7. So that is the factorized version of that. But now the challenge that we are having is this particular division sign, in which you must change it before you cancel things into a multiplication sign. So what you'll have here, you will have x minus 2, x plus 2 over 3x minus 2, x plus 2. Now you multiply. Remember, when you introduce the multiplication sign, the bottom goes on top and the top goes to the bottom. So what we have now is x minus 2 to x minus 7, just by introducing the times sign, multiplication sign, instead of the division sign that was there before. X minus 2 times 3x minus 2 over 3 to x minus a 7. So now you can then at this point be able to cancel out what is common, because everything is multiplying. So let's cancel out what's common. X plus 2, x plus 2, and then x minus 2 goes with the x minus 2, x minus 2, x minus 2, 2x minus 7, 2x minus 7, 3x minus 2 with the 3x minus 2. You can see that on top we are having a 1, a 1, a 1, a 1, a 1. So it's 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1. At the bottom is also a 1 times 1 times 1 times 1. There is a 3 times 3. So the answer therefore becomes 1 over 3. So what you get there is equal to 1 over 3. That is the factorized, the simplified version of what you are given. Moving on, it says when f of x is divided, that is question 1.2. The first question, if you can go again and check at the mark allocation, you can see that the first question we had, it is 5 marks, so it was worth it. Now, the second question is 4 marks. It says when f of x is divided by 2x minus 3, the remainder is 4. Now, just this statement, when f of x is divided by 2x minus 3, the remainder is 4. You can write two things from that statement. What is the first one? You will say 2x minus 3, it must equate us to 0. I'm still on the top statement, because if the thing is divided by, you just equate whatever you're given to 0. Then you solve for x, which is 2x is equal to 3. You divide by 2 on both sides, so that you've got what? X is equal to 3 over 2. That's the first thing that you have to notice on that. I'll divide my line. The second thing from the same statement you say is when f of x is divided by 2x minus 3, is the statement you say is the remainder is 4. So what you can notice is it's telling you that f of 3 over 2, the 3 over 2 is the one that you just got. They say you must get a 4. They will just give you marks for finding that and for writing that. It's already a mark, because this will enable you to say determine the value of p if f of x is equal to, the second line now, determine the value of p if f of x is equal to that. Now let's write our f of x is equal to 2x cubed minus px squared plus 6x minus 5. Now, what I wanted to remember, we are told that it's divided by 2x minus 3, so now you have to find the f of 3 over 2, which is equal to 2 3 over 2 cubed minus p 3 over 2 squared plus 6 3 over 2 minus 5. That is what you need to find. Now, if you use a calculator, which I've done already, you're going to get here 27 over 4 in the first one, minus 9 over 4p, plus 9 minus 5. That's what you're going to get. But there's something that you must remember. In the first line, we said what? F of 2 over 3 is equal to 4. So you equate that also to 4. Then when you equate it to 4, you can now solve for p. Now when you solve for p, if you take all the numbers on the other side, you'll have minus 9 over 4p is equal to 4 minus 27 over 4 minus 9 plus 5. Remember, what you're simply doing is you're solving for p. Now when you solve for p, at the end of the day, you will have minus 9 over 4p is equal to minus 27 over 4. Now, if you can divide everything by minus 4, minus 9 over 4, or actually it's also correct to cancel out the 4, then you cancel out the negatives, and then you divide 9 into 9 is 1, 9 into 27 is 3. So you can see now that therefore p is equal to 3. Whatever method you're going to use to get p, this is a simple algebraic solution, so you can get your p is equal to 3. Let us move on to the next one. It says factorize the following expression completely. Now if they say completely, they mean you have to make sure that you factorize until the end. What are we given? If I can rewrite that, you are given ax plus 9by minus 3ay minus 3bx. So there are different ways you could have approached this method. The main thing here is to group the factors according to similarities. So you have to group to what is common. So I can group them by saying, if you can see, I have got the first one, ax. I can choose any other factor that has got either an a or an x, but you can see that 3 has got an a, so I can choose that, which is minus 3ay. See, I'm regrouping now according to common factors. What am I looking for? I'm looking for a, and I'm looking for a. Don't forget, I maintained the sign of 3ay, which is what? Which is a negative. The next thing is plus 9by. I'm maintaining the sign of 9by. If you change the signs, you're going to have problems in that. And minus 3bx. Or, alternatively, I could have grouped ax. If you can see, ax and bx. What is common there? X is common. But in this case, I did not want to group it according to my x. I just chose to group it according to my a. So now if I factorize the first part, a is common. If I factorize a, I'll get x minus 3y. Now to know that you have factorized correctly, you must also get a similar bracket that will have x minus 3y in the other two factors. So now let us see what we get. What is common between 9by and minus 3bx? Between the numbers 9 and 3, you can see if I take out positive 3, if I say 3, and then also, what is common between by and bx? B is common. I put a bracket. 3 into 9 is 3. B into by, you are left with a 3y. Then minus 3 into 3 is a 1. B into bx, you are left with an x. So now you can see that in the second you are having 3y minus x. Now they look the same, but they are not the same. Why? Because only of the signs. In the first one, x is positive. In the first bracket, x is positive. In the second bracket, x is negative. So there is a simple thing that you need to do. You will rewrite the first one, minus 3y, and then take out a negative from the bracket, from 3y minus x. If you take out a negative, that's how it's done. Since plus 3p was positive, as you can see, so if I take out a negative, the positive sign will become a negative 3p. So everything in the bracket will interchange the signs. Instead of 3y, you will have minus 3y. Instead of minus x, you will have a positive x, which now becomes x minus 3y. Why? Because I took out a negative. If I multiply back the bracket, I'll return back to 3y minus x. So now you can see now the brackets are now matching, x minus 3y, which is what you need in the first one. Then you write what is outside the bracket, a minus 3b. Then these are 3 good marks that you are not supposed to forfeit or lose in the exam. So remember to score good marks on that, or to make sure that you get everything correct. Now the next question is 1.4. It says simplify the following expression. What are we given? We are given x plus 9 x to the power half over x plus 9x to the power half minus 18 divided by 1 minus 2 over x to the power half to the power negative 1. Now, if you look at that expression, usually it's the one that uses let x to the power half be equal to, you can say be equal to b or whatever. So if I can write it, I can start by saying let x to the power of half be equal to b. You can choose any letter that you want. So if that is equal to b, now if I want to solve for x, I will have x to the power half squared is equal to what I do on the left, I do on the right, is equal to b squared. So now if I can cancel that, I will have x is equal to b squared. You see that? So now, since x is equal to b squared, now I can rewrite my expression as, where there is x, I'm going to write b squared. So let me write it. What I'm given here, I was given x plus 9x to the power of half, right, over x plus 7x to the power of half minus 18 divided by 1 minus 2 over x to the power half minus 1. So now what I'm saying is, where there is an x here, it becomes my b squared. Where there is an x to the power half, it becomes my b. Where there is an x, it becomes my b squared. Where there is an x to the power half, becomes my b. X to the power half becomes my b. That's what just happened. So what I will have here, I will have b squared plus 9b over b squared plus 7b minus 18 divided by 1 minus 2 over b minus 1. That's exactly what I have now. Now, if you continue on the first one, you can see that the first one, b is common. So you'll have b plus 9. Now, on the second one, using the product sum, I'm using the product sum method. I'm multiplying b squared times minus 18. I'll get minus 18, and which is my product, and my sum is 7b. So I'm looking for two numbers. When I multiply them, I get minus 18, and when I add them, I get a plus 7b. So you'll get b squared, those two numbers. Factors of 18 is 9 and 2, which is plus 9b minus 2b minus 18 divided by, I can also add that fraction, 1 minus 2 over b. this is same as 1 over 1, and you can see the common denominator there is a b. So you will have b minus 2 to the power negative 1. So when you simplify that, you are going to have b plus 9. Now when you factorize to full, you are going to have a b. Remember, it was b plus 9, so you are going to have a b plus 9 and a b minus 2, and remember it's still divided by b minus 2 over b to the power negative 1. Now, having done that, the next thing that I want you to be careful of now are the two things. Here is the negative sign and the division sign and the negative sign. Those two, you need to be very careful how you approach them. Now, the first thing you need to do is to deal, that's number 1, deal with that negative, and then followed by number 2, deal with the division sign. Now, don't be tempted to make it a times. If you make it a times before dealing with the negative, you're going to mix your answers. So the best thing that I will advise you to do is first solve what is inside the bracket. As you can see, you must always remember you must remember brackets first. So solve what is inside the brackets before you can introduce either a division or a multiplication sign. So now let's start by, if I can have it on the side here, if I say b minus 2 over b to the power minus 1, this is same as 1 over b minus 2 over b, which is same as 1 divided by b minus 2 over b. So this is the divided by is this divided by, right? And then I'll continue, which is equal to 1. Now I'm introducing a times. It will become b over b minus 2. Remember, when I'm introducing a times, what is top comes down, what is bottom goes up. So now, which means this will become, I can go on to cancel out if I want what's common there, b plus 9, b plus 9. Let me take it out of the way. So I will have b over b minus 2 divided by, so after simplifying the b minus 2 over b to the power negative 1, you can see that we just got b, because this is same as 1 times b over 2, which is same as b over b minus 2. So what I have there is b over b minus 2. Continuing, which is equal to b over b minus 2 times b minus 2 over b. What have I done? I have introduced the multiplication sign, so you can see that I have interchanged. What was on top went down, what was bottom went up. So now at this stage, then can I cancel b minus 2, and b to get 1, 1, 1, and the answer there is a 1. Now I want you to be very careful, because someone will be tempted to say I could have cancelled it from the top here to say already there was a b and a b minus 2 and a b minus 2. You are going to be penalized marks because you did not respect number 1, the negative sign, which was in bracket, and number 2, the division sign. You cannot cancel when there is a division sign. So don't do that, it won't be allowed. You'll be penalized marks. For you to get all the marks, you need to go through the stages. Let us move on to the next question. It says, it's question number 2, solve for x. So what are we given there? We are given 2 to the power 0. It's 6 marks, which is good marks. It's 2 to the power 0 plus 2 to the power 1 minus 2x is equal to 9 dot 2 to the power minus 1 minus x. Very interesting question, but it mainly involves exponents, if you can remember your exponential equations. Now, don't forget any number to the power of 0, like 100 to the power of 0 is 1, x to the power of 0 is 1, 22x to the power of 0 in brackets is 1. So any number to the power of 0 is a 1. So which means the first one is simple. 2 to the power of 0 is 1 plus. Now the next thing that I wanted to be aware of is splitting 2 to the power minus 1 minus 2x using the laws of exponents. There is the law that you use a to the power x plus a to the power y. Remember, it's a to the power x plus y. If I write it the other way around, if I say a to the power x plus y, now I'm writing it going in the opposite direction. So what will I have? I will have a to the power x. Actually, this is wrong. Just correction, apologies. This is not the law. It's a to the power x times. There must be a times sign, not a plus sign. So now, please correct that. It's a to the power x times, not plus. So now, when you are multiplying, you add the exponents. So now, if I'm given a to the power x plus y, I'll be writing a to the power x, a to the power x, dot, or times a to the power y. You can see that these two, the top one and the bottom one, they are the same. It's just that I am rewriting the top one from right to left. So now, in the same manner, 2 to the power minus 1 minus 2x is same as 2 to the power minus 1 times 2 to the power minus 2x. That's where I'm driving at. You understand? Same thing, 2 to the power minus 1 minus x, this particular one, will be the same as 2 to the power minus 1 times 2 to the power minus x. What am I using? As I said, I'm splitting these two apart. So what will I have? I will have 2 to the power 1 times 2 to the power minus 2x is equal to 9 dot is same as times 2 to the power minus 1 times 2 to the power minus x. Alright, so now I'm still continuing on my side notes. I'm giving you the side notes so that you can understand what is coming from where. Now the next thing that you must remember, if I give you x to the power minus 2 is same as 1 over x squared. From where? A to the power minus x is same as 1 over a to the power x. It's a law of exponent. So in the same manner, if I've got 2x to the power minus 2, this is same as 2 over x squared. The 2 is not having the negative. The negative is only affecting the x. So in this case, using the same, I will have 1 plus 2 over 2 to the power 2x is equal to 9 over 2 times 2 to the power x. You see, why did I bring out the 2? And because all of them, they have got negative sign, hence I brought them down. Now, the next thing that we need to do also is to say let. So again, if I come here on my right hand side, I'm going to say let 2 to the power x is equal to b, which means 2 to the power 2x is same as 2 to the power x times 2 to the power x. You understand? Which is equal to b times b, which is equal to 2b squared. So using that same argument here, what I will have, where there is 2 to the power 2x, I'm going to have b squared. Where there is 2 to the power x, I'm going to have a b. So how do I write it? It will be 1 plus 2 over b squared is equal to 9 over 2b. Okay, so now when I have done that, I have now to make it flat, remove the fractions in it. Now for me to remove the fractions, you can see I've got b squared and 2b. So I can multiply everything. The common multiple will be 2b squared. So I'm going to multiply everything by 2b squared. So what it will become? It will be 1 times, because there is a 1 times, I'll put in bracket 2b squared. Alright, plus, again, what I have is 2 over b squared is multiplied by 2b squared, remember, is equal to 9 over 2b. I'm multiplying by 2b squared. Why? Because 2b squared is the lowest common multiple that can enter into b squared and 2b. At that moment, I'm able now to cancel the b squared and the b squared. The 2, the b, only one b will remain. So I'll have 2b squared plus 4 is equal to 9b. So it will be 2b squared minus 9b plus 4 is equal to 0. At that moment, using the product sum, I'm looking for two numbers. When I multiply them, I get an 8. When I add them, I also get a negative 9. So it will be 2b squared. The factors of 9, it's 9 and 1, and 3 and 3. In this case, it's 9 and 1. It will be minus, it's 8 and 1. The factors of 8, remember, product is 8. It's 8 and 1. It's 2 and 4. So those are the two factors, 8 and 1. So in this case, it's minus 8b minus b. Gives you minus 9 plus 4 equal to 0. 2b, and then b minus 4 minus 1, it's b minus 4 is equal to 0. You just take out a negative sign so that you will match the two brackets. So it's b minus 4 and 2b minus 1. So you have managed to factorize that. This one, remember, is equal to 0. Therefore, b minus 4 equal to 0, meaning b is equal to 4, or 2b minus 1 is equal to 0, meaning 2b is equal to 1. Divide by 2. What do we have now? b is equal to 1 over 2. But remember, that's not the final answer. That's not your answer. You just told us that 2 to the power x is equal to b. So you said let 2 to the power x equal to b. So now the final answer, you take back your b, because we don't know what's your b. You told us let that be a b, but we need you to find the value of x, not of b. So now you take your 2 to the power x. Since you know the value of b now, the first one is 4, then you solve for x. 2 to the power of x is equal to 2 squared. Therefore, when the bases are the same, you equate the exponents. In this case, x is equal to 2. Or the next one, 2 to the power x is equal to, remember b is also 1 over 2, so 2 to the power x is equal to 1 over 2 is same as 2 to the power negative 1, using the laws of exponents. Again, you have matched the bases, you equate the exponents, x is equal to minus a 1. So these are the two values of x. X is equal to 2, or x is equal to a negative 1. So that's how you should have solved that. Moving on to the next one, 2.2. is logarithms. Now you have to solve the following logs. What are we given? It says log x plus 1 over log x base 10 is equal to 2. Now to solve this particular problem, I have to bring in the formula sheet. Now in the formula sheet, there is an interesting rule or a law of logarithms, which is that one, which says log b of a is equal to, you want log c of a over log c of b. Now with that rule, now how does it help us? It will help you solve this problem and make it much simpler. Now look at this. You are given log in base b of a, so you are changing from base b to base c. So if you want to change from base b to a new base c, this is the rule. Now using the same rule, I want to change log x. But how do I change log x? I want to change it to base x, this particular base that were given in that question. So the question that were given, I want to change the log x into base x. So now whenever you are not given any base, this is same as log base 10 of x. You must always know that it means the same. Remember, this is my formula that I'm going to use. Now I want to change it into log base x. So this is same as log base x. Remember, I'm changing it into base x, my new base. I write my x over log base x of what? Of 10. Any number, where did I get the 10? If they don't write any number here, by default, you must always know it is 10. So that's how you must always know that. Now, if you simplify log base x of x, go back to your formula on logarithms. You'll see that log, if the basis and the number is the same, it's 1 over log base x of 10. Now, if we have that in mind, it means our question, it says log base x plus 1 over log base x of 10 is equal to 2. Now, you can see now where we have log x. Remember, we've changed our log x into base x is now that. So we are going to substitute it here. Why? Because we've matched the basis is now everything in base x, and we can be able to work that. So in a way, where there is log x, I'll put 1 over log base x of 10. So we have got now 1 over log base x of 10 plus 1 over log base x of 10. See that? And then what is it equal to? We are saying it is equal to 2. You can just pause the video and go and look at how I did it. You'll be able to follow up. Now, the next thing that I'm having here is I can factorize 1 over log base x of 10. If I factorize them, I'll get 1 plus 1 is equal to 2 because it's common. Now, I have got of this 1 over log base x 10 of, and 1 plus 1 is 2 is equal to 2. I divide both sides by 2, divide both sides by 2, cancel that. So it means 1 over log base x of 10 is equal to a 1. So now this is same as 1 over 1. So if I cross multiply, I have got, I can write it this side. If I cross multiply, I have got log base x of 10 is equal to a 1. Therefore, this means if you solving it using, if you can go back to equations that you use when solving logs, this means x to the power 1 is equal to 10. X to the power 1 is equal to 10. Therefore, x is equal to 10. So that is the solution to that particular problem. You can go backwards, pause the video. Sometimes log can be a bit confusing and a bit tricky, but when you apply the laws correctly, you'll be able to follow up. Moving on to the next one also, it's 6 marks. This question, and it involves logs. Let me write it. It says 2 log x squared plus log x cubed minus 2 is equal to 0. If you see 3 marks, 6 marks, I mean in an N3 question paper, you must know that there is a bit of working. You need to be extra careful, but when you get it right, trust me, you'll be able to score good marks in that. Now let us move on to this particular question. One thing that I want us first to clear up is that log x to the power 3. So what you have, you'll have 2 log x squared plus, remember the 3 will come down to become 3 log x minus 2 is equal to 0. I'm using laws of logarithms. Remember, this law can apply in x cubed, not in that it cannot go down like it did in 3. So please do not get it confused. This bracket is very important, meaning you cannot apply the law of logarithms. So don't be tempted to say the 2 will drop down like the 3. It will not. The only way to solve this, otherwise if it was like that, it would have been 6 marks. It would have been just simple marks. But the thing that you need to do again is to let, if I can just use a different one, let log x be equal to b. We've been using b across. So what does it mean? Where there is log x here, you just put a b. Where there is log x, you just put a b. So what we have, you can see now you have got 2b squared plus 3b minus 2 is equal to 0. Do you see that you are back again to the product sum method? We have been doing a lot of this let. I think this is the third one where we're saying let. And I think if you master that approach, you'll be in a good position for you to get most of your answers correct. So if you use the product sum method, we're looking for 2 numbers. When you multiply them, these 2 numbers, you get a negative 4, and when we add them, you get a 3. So we're looking at the factors of 4. So in this case, it will be 2b squared plus 4b minus b minus 2 is equal to 0. So you take 2b, you've got b plus 2 minus 1 and b plus 2. This gives me a 0. So the factorized version is b plus 2 and 2b minus 1 is equal to a 0. I think we solved something similar to this. So now what we have, either b plus 2 is equal to 0, therefore b is equal to minus 2, or 2b minus 1 is equal to 0, therefore 2b is equal to a 1. You divide by 2 on both sides. You have got now b is equal to 1 over 2. So these are the 2 solutions that we have. Remember, these solutions are for b. b is equal to minus 2 and b is equal to a half. But that is not your answer. Remember, you said log x is equal to a b. You said let. So which means, since you said let log x be equal to a b, now, as I said, if they say log x, it means hidden there is a what? Is a 10. Alright. So in the actual fact now, we can now substitute where there was a b, which is now minus 2 in one side. So say log base 10 of x is equal to minus 2. That's the first one. So what does it mean? X is equal to 10 to the power 2, therefore x is equal to 100. Now looking at the next one, it's log base 10 of x is equal to a half, which is a 1 over 2. Therefore, x is equal to 10 to the power 1 over 2. So now you need to use a calculator. In this case, they said you must round off your answers to 3 decimal places, which is 3.162 if you use your calculator. Now, those are the two values of x. Now, one of the important things that I always advise, especially questions that are a bit tricky like this, you can take the value of x. Remember, one of the values of x was 100. You can take the value of x, put your 100 here, you put your 100 here, you must solve it, it must give you a 0. Or you put that 10 to the power half, or 3.162, you put it here and here, it must give you a 0. That is the good part of equations. You can test if your answer is wrong or correct. Let us move on to question number 3. Now, question number 3 says, make h the subject of the formula. So the subject of the formula is one of the most common questions that they can ask you in your exam. So how do you go about? Let me write it. It says m, I prefer my red pen, m is equal to k h squared plus h squared over b. So in this case, the first thing that you need to do is to multiply both sides by b and both sides by b. Why? So that you can remove that fraction. So what you have now is you have got bm is equal to k. You can automatically, so that I don't waste time, the k can open that bracket, whereby k will expand that bracket, so it will be k h squared plus k h squared. You can actually do that. Remember, our aim, they're saying make h the subject of the formula, so we are looking for the small h. Now, since h is our principal one we are looking for, let's take h squared to join bm. So you'll have bm minus k h squared, which is the big H, is equal to k h squared. Alright, so now with that in mind, what you can also further do, you can just erase this side so that I can have more space. What you can further do now is you can now divide both sides by k. So you'll have bm over k minus kh squared over k is equal to kh squared over k. I think you can see why we're dividing by k, so that, sorry, it doesn't cancel on the other side. Oh, it does cancel on the other side, okay. It's fine, it can cancel on the other side. You can do that, or you can actually divide everything on the left hand side, whereby it's a one line and you divide by k. So it's up to you how you want to do it. If you do it individually, the k will cancel. So now you'll have bm over k minus h squared is equal to h squared. And you know how you solve for h now. You square root both sides, and what you do on the left, you do on the right. You square root both sides. So now, therefore, I'll write start with h now. My h is equal to square root of bm over k minus h squared. So it's also fine to sum. Remember it to be everything over k. So that one is still fine because you would have divided by k. Also, one thing that sometimes is important to do is to say plus or minus, because whenever you are putting a square root on both sides, there is always plus or minus. Let us move on to the next question, solving for x. Now, again, you can see that this particular exam, they focused more on fractions. It's like they were trying to test students their competency in fractions. As we saw, most of our questions involved fractions, which means if your fractions are not in, you are not understanding your fractions, you will definitely need to practice more. Like for example, look at this question. It's also solving for x, but they introduced fractions, which means you might be able to solve for x, but if your fractions are a bit doubtful from the side, then it will actually cost you lots of marks. Now look at this question, it's also 7 marks, but it involved fractions and there wasn't much difficult thing in this particular question. Now, one of the two things that I wanted to note is x squared, let me write it down, x squared minus 4x plus 3. We've been talking about this, that you can make it a product sum, which can be x minus 3 and x minus 1. You have to factorize that, alright? So if you can be able to do that, so this question now will become x minus 2 over x minus 1 minus 5 over x minus 3 x minus 1. See that? Because we put that minus 2 over 3 minus x is equal to a 1. Now the only interesting thing in this question is that 3 minus x and x minus 3, and you can see that it is similar, but only problem is that the brackets are different. Now let me revert back to one similar question that we did concerning the changing of signs. We had a similar problem that we did previously when we were supposed to factorize. Remember, we had 3y minus x and x minus 3y, and you remember what I did? I introduced a negative sign so that the signs also will change. When x was negative, x became positive. When y was positive, y became negative. Still remember that. So that is the same approach that we're going to use in that other problem. So with this problem also, you can see we've got x minus 3, x is positive, but here we've got 3 minus x, x is negative. So in such a case, what you need to do, again, you rewrite it as x minus 2 over x minus 1 minus 5 over x minus 3 and x minus 1. Now, because you are taking out a negative and already there is a negative sign, so when you take out a negative, how many negatives will you be having now? You'll be having 2 negatives. So that will change to become a what? A positive. 2 over, then you make it x minus 3 is equal to 1. So the examiners or the person who set this question paper wanted just to check whether you can see that this x minus 3 is the same as that x minus 3, so that the common denominator does not confuse you. So now we can see that the common denominator is x minus 1 and x minus 3. So not x minus 1, x minus 3, 3 minus x. So now let's look, using that common denominator, this problem become, you'll have x minus 3 and x minus 1. Remember, x minus 1 into x minus 3, x minus 1, you'll remain with x minus 3. So you'll have x minus 3 multiplying your x minus 2. You'll need to revert back, minus 5 over x minus 3, x minus 1 into x minus 3x. So here you'll have minus 5, 1, there isn't much there. Okay, and then minus, if you check, it's minus x minus 3, so you have x minus 1 multiplied by 2. Alright, is equal to 1. Then you have to expand that bracket, in which you'll have x squared minus 2x minus 3x plus 6 minus 5 minus 2x plus 2. This is automatically, I'll say, over 1. When I cross multiply, that x minus 3, x minus 1 will multiply as when I expand it also. Okay, let me not rush. It will be x minus 3 and x minus 1, which I need to expand. So when I have done that, so it will be x squared minus 2x minus 3x plus 6 minus 5 minus 2x. Is it minus 2x? Was it a negative? Let me just check from the question paper. Here it's we say it is a plus. Let's not forget that. We said, remember, we said now it changes to become a plus. So when it changes to become a plus, there is a plus here. So it's 2x. Now I have to erase that, otherwise it will make everything wrong. So it's 2x minus 2, because it's a plus. So it's a positive 2x actually, because 2x times that is positive 2x, that, yes, that's fine. So now with that, we are going to have now x squared minus 2x minus 3x plus 6 minus 5 plus 2x minus 2 is equal to x squared minus x minus 3x plus 3. So the best thing that you can do is you can take, collect all the like terms on one side, collect the numbers on the other side, anything that you can do with the same. But another thing that you can simply do, okay, let me do it, x squared minus x squared plus 2, then minus 2x minus 3x plus 2x. I've got those 3. Then it jumps the sign, negative x will become positive x, negative 3x will become positive 3x, will be equal to 3 minus 6 plus 5 plus 2. That is what I'm having. So the x and the x will cancel, minus 2x plus 2x minus 3x plus 3x. So what I'll have is x on the other side is equal to, now if you look at the other one, you will have 3 minus 6 is minus 3 plus 5, it's positive 2, so you have a 4. So x is equal to a 4. So what you do, the best thing that you do is, for you to check whether your answer is correct, that you're correct, what you simply do, you have to take your value of 4, where there is x, you put your 4, you put your 4, you put your 4, you put your 4, you put your 4. It must give you a 1. That's how you can test it with your calculator. Alright. Let us move on to the next question. Question 3.3, again it's 6 marks, and this one is kind of a word problem. It says the perimeter of a rectangular triangle is 40 meters. Determine the length of the hypotenuse and the area of the rectangular triangle if the length of one of the other two sides of the triangle is 8 meters. Well, I'll just tell you that one thing that confused me in this case was the rectangular triangle, but in a way, I think the main thing that we are looking at here was just to confuse the whole thing. It is the triangle. So if I can draw my right angle triangle, maybe the question wanted to say the perimeter of a right angle triangle, a rectangular triangle. Well, yeah, it's fine, but I just got a bit confused in the rectangular word there, but it's a right angle triangle. So they are saying the perimeter. Remember, what is the perimeter? Perimeter is distance right around the shape. So if I can have my, let's say this side is x, this side is y, that side is r. So they are saying the perimeter. Now what is the perimeter? Perimeter means x plus y plus r. When you add the distance right round, they are saying it is 40 meters. That's what they are saying. So determine the length of the hypotenuse. So they want r in this case, and the area of the rectangular triangle. So they want the hypotenuse r, and they want us to find the area if the length of one of the two sides is 8 meters. So let's choose x to become 8 meters. I'm saying that one side, it doesn't matter which side, so I just chose x to become 8 meters. So in this case, what am I having now? I'm having 8 plus y plus r is equal to 40. So if I'm writing now, it will be y plus r is equal to, okay, let me not do that. 8 will join 40 that other side. It will be 40 minus 8. So y plus r is equal to 32. That's the first equation. On top of that, I can make y the subject of the formula and further say y, is it the right one? Y is equal to 32 minus r. So this becomes even my equation 2. So you see, I've got y is equal to, y plus r is 32, then I take r to join 32, become y, that becomes my equation 2. Where did I get that one from? I got that from the statement that they've given me. It says the perimeter of the rectangular triangle. Now the next thing that they are saying is determine the length of the hypotenuse and the area of the rectangle if the length of one of the side is what? They're saying the length of one of the side is 8. So also what you need to know is using Pythagoras theorem. Remember, Pythagoras theorem says r squared is equal to x squared plus y squared. That is the Pythagoras theorem. So now we can now, in this case, where there is which is r squared is equal to 8 squared plus y squared. So 8 squared plus y squared, therefore r squared is equal to 64 plus y squared. So that is equation 3. So with that equation 3, what is interesting now is we can automatically now find r. How can we find r? Remember, we know our y from equation 2. This is our y. We can substitute y where there is y squared. So what you'll be having? You'll be having r squared is equal to 64 minus, now it says 64 plus y squared, but y is equal to, I'm just writing that, 32 minus r So therefore r squared is equal to 64 plus 32 minus r squared. You see that? So r squared is equal to 64 plus 32 minus r and 32 minus r, which is r squared is equal to 64 plus 32 times 32. You expand that bracket, so I'm expanding that. That's what I'm just doing. I'm expanding. So 32 times 32 using a calculator, it will give you 1024 minus 32r minus 32r plus r squared. As you can see that. Now the next thing that we are supposed to do here, we're supposed to solve. So let's collect like terms. R squared, if I can collect like terms, is r squared minus r squared plus 32r plus 32r is equal to 64 plus 1024. Now r squared minus r squared will cancel. 32 plus 32 is 64r is equal to, if you add 64 plus 1024 is 1088. Divide by 64 on both sides. What I'm going to have is r is equal to 17. In this case, r is equal to 17 meters. So the question was, determine the length of the hypotenuse. So in this case, this is my hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is equal to 17 meters. And the second question of it says, determine and the area of the rectangular triangle. Now the area, remember, area of a triangle, area of a triangle is equal to half times base times height. That is a right angle triangle, which is equal to half times, and what is my base? Now you know the base is 8 in this case, times 8 times height, and the height in this case is the y times y. I'll make it in another color. So now the question is, what is the y? You go back to equation 3. Remember, this was the value for y. So now in this case, what is your y? I can use a different pen. Here you can see y is equal to 32 minus r. But you know your r is 17, which is equal to 32 minus 17. So what is the value of y? Y, 32 minus 17 is 15 meters. So which is equal to half times 8 times 15. So the area, if you use a calculator, you'll find that is 60. In this case, it will be meters squared. So that is the 7 marks that they wanted to capture from that. Now let us move on to the next question. Now let us look at question number 4. Question number 4 says, consider figure 1. O is the center. As you can see, we've got O there as the center of the circle, and chord AB, you can see A and B, cuts the circle at the point A, which is those coordinates, and B, which is XY. The midpoint of AB is P. You can see P there, which has got coordinates of 4, 8. Line AC make an angle theta with the x-axis. Now we're going to be reverting back to this particular question. Now let's look at the first question. It says, determine the coordinates of B if P is the midpoint of AB. So they want the coordinates of B in this case. Now they are saying the coordinates of B is XY. Now P is the midpoint. If you still remember the midpoint formula, Now I'm going to take you to the formula for the midpoint. Now it says midpoint formula. P is equal to x1 plus x2 over 2, and y is y1 plus y2 over 2. So this is the x coordinate and this is the y coordinate. So now this is what we will be using that formula when we are using for that particular question for the midpoint. So now what does it say? Again, saying P is the midpoint. So how did they get P? For them to get P, they said x1. Okay, let me do that. For them to get P, they said x1 plus x2 over 2, and they said y1 plus y2 over 2. That's how they got point P. But now they got point P from A and B. Your A is 0, 10. Your B is x, y. That's where they got the point P. So now if you can use those 2 points that are having P, now this will become, you can make this your x1, your y1, your x2, your y2, so that you can put it in the formula. So P will become x1 is 0 plus x over 2, and the y will become 10 plus y over 2. Literally, that is P. So this is how they got the value of P. So if this is how they got the value of P, in this case, if that is how they got that value, you have got also another P. In this case, P is, we are told the value of P. P is 4, 8. So now, if you look carefully, you can now start to see that the 4 is equal to that, and this side is equal to that. So actually, you can start matching. So what do you have? You can see that 0 plus x over 2 is equal to 4. That's an equation that you start to have. So for 4.1 there, you can say 0 plus x over 2 is equal to a 4. That's what they're having. So now, in other ways, x over 2 is equal to 4. Now you multiply by 2 on both sides. So what you have here is x is equal to 8. That's the first part. Now you move on to the other coordinate. 10 plus y over 2 is equal to the other value, which is 8. Again, you multiply by 2 on both sides to get rid of that 2. So you've got 10 plus y is equal to 16. Y is equal to 16 minus 10, which is equal to 6. So now the question is, determine the coordinates of B. So B, the coordinates is xy, which is 8 and 6. So that is the answer that they needed to determine the coordinates of B. Now 4.2, it says determine the gradient of the chord AB. Now remember, A, we got the coordinates of A. Now the coordinates of A is 0, 10, and the coordinates of B is the one that you got. Coordinates of B is 8, 6. So now they wanted to determine the gradient. Let me just work it from here. I can erase 4.1 there. I'll leave B there. This is now 4.2. Remember, they are saying determine the gradient of the chord. Now we have got your A, which is 0, 10. Refer to the diagram. And you've got your B, which is the one I'm having, 8, 6. You can also use your P. What is the P? P was 4, 8. It's always safe to use at least the one that they're given I always say if you don't trust your answer, you better use A and P because they lie on a straight line, therefore the gradient does not change. But now they say determine the gradient of the chord AB. You can use AB or AP. The answer will be the same, as you will see. So let's look at the gradient M of AB. Gradient of AB is equal to, using the formula, is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So now you can choose, this is x1, this is y1, by x2, y2. So if you can choose that, therefore this becomes, then y2 will be 6 minus 10 over x2, 8 minus 0. So if you look at the gradient there, you're going to solve it. You have to use your calculator. In this case, it's minus 1 over 2. So you've got your gradient as minus 1 over 2. As I said, you can actually use A and P. Using the same method, you will still get a value of minus 1 over 2. So that is question 4.2. I will erase it again. Moving on. So what is the next one? Says determine the equation of the line of the straight line through A and B, leaving your answer in gradient intercept form. So this question actually is a continuation of question 4.2. So 4.3, I'll just write it down there. Remember, what we did is we said the gradient of AB was equal to minus a half. So you're using that. So now they're saying determine the equation of the straight line through A and B. So in this case, they want the equation of a line through A. There is our A and B. So now we know point A, we know point B, we know the gradient of that line, and they want it in gradient intercept form. So what do you do? Remember, the equation of a line, you can use y is equal to mx plus c, or you can use on the same one y1. Let me write it properly. Y minus y1 is equal to m x minus x1. Both of these equations will give you the answer. Now this one straight away give me, this is already the gradient intercept form. What they're needing, they're saying determine the equation of a straight line through A and B and leave the answer in gradient intercept form. This is already the gradient intercept form, so you can use it. So now if I already know my gradient, my m is negative half. I can choose, they said point A and B. So let's say I'm choosing my point A, where there is y, I put a 10 from point A is equal to my gradient, negative half, x is 0, plus c. So this makes me find c. In this case, what is c? C is equal to 10. So if I write it in gradient intercept form, it will be y is equal to m, which is minus 1 over 2x, and c plus c is 10. This is the gradient intercept form. So the next question again, I think the best thing is to always erase and work it from this. It says show that, question number 4, 4.4. 4.4 says show that OP, that's how you write it, OP is perpendicular, that's how it's written, for perpendicular line, perpendicular to AB. Now if you go backwards, they're saying OP and AB, they must meet at 90 degrees. That's what it means by perpendicular. In this case, there must be a 90 degrees. So they're saying show that OP is perpendicular to AB. Now, for you to show the perpendicular line, now what we have, remember OP, the point there is 0, 0 in O, and P is 4, 8. So let me take those points. O is 0, 0, and P is 4, 8. Now, let me find the gradient of OP. M of OP is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which is equal to 8 minus 0 over 4 minus 0, which is equal to 2. There is the gradient of OP. Now, let us multiply the gradient of AB times the gradient of OP and see what we get. What's the gradient of AB? Remember, we said from the previous question, which is question 4.2, the gradient of AB was minus 2 times the gradient of OP, which has got is 2, and if you multiply, you get a negative 1. Now, what do you do in this case? The question is, show that OP is perpendicular to AB. So it means, in this particular case, you continue and then say, for perpendicular lines, remember you're trying to show M1 times M2 is equal to minus 1. So now this is what you are given in the formulas. Is there in your, if you got your formulas, you will see that there is a formula which says M1 times M2 is equal to minus 1 for perpendicular lines. Now, if this is for perpendicular lines, we also discovered that MAB times MOP is equal to minus 1. Therefore, OP is perpendicular to AB. That's how you show it. The last 4.6, if you look at last 4.6, what does it say? No, 4.5. It says determine the equation of the line parallel to OP and passing through A. If you remember, A had a coordinate of 0, 10, right? And then it says parallel to OP. Now, OP had a gradient. We just found the gradient of OP. And the gradient of OP, if you remember, was 2. We just calculated the gradient of OP. And we got the gradient of OP, M of OP, as 2. So if you use that, M of OP is equal to 2. Now, why am I using M of OP? They're saying determine the equation of the line parallel to OP. Now, parallel lines, you must remember, M1 is equal to M2. It means parallel lines have the same gradient. So, using that argument, you can use y minus y1 is equal to mx minus x1. I'm using that so that you can, or if you just used y is equal to mx plus c, it was still going to give you the same answer. I'm just using two different methods, but it doesn't matter how you approach it. So now I'm got y minus 10, this is my y, this is my x, is equal to m, which is 2, x minus 0. So y is equal to 2x plus 10. If I was using y is equal to mx plus c, I'm going to use my y is 10 is equal to m, which is 2, 0 plus c. You can see c is equal to 10. Then if I write it, it will be y is equal to m, which is 2x plus c, 2x plus 10. So you can see whatever approach that you use, you still get the same answer. Then the last one, 4.6, it says calculate the size of theta, the angle of inclination between AC and the x-axis. Now for this particular question, when they're asking about the angle theta, this was the angle theta they are looking for, as you can see. So now we know the gradient of AB. Remember, m of AB was equal to a negative 1. So if m of AB was a negative 1, and now if you go to your formulas, let me show you the formulas. If you go to your formulas, something that you'll notice on the formulas is the angle of inclination. they're saying theta, let me write it clearly, you must refer to your formula, theta is equal to arctan m. So that is the formula that we are going to use in that case. Also, as a referee, remember perpendicular lines, the equation of a line, as well as parallel lines. That's what you're supposed to use. But don't forget, theta is equal to arctan m. So now they want that angle of inclination. So here, remember m of AB was equal to -half. So here you are going to say theta is equal to arctan minus 1/2. Now let us go into it from our page. So the question was, calculate the size of theta, the angle of inclination between AC and the x-axis. And we said theta was arctan m, in which case m of AB was equal to -1/2. Therefore, theta is equal to arctan minus 1/2. Now, if you use your calculator, you'll discover that your calculator will give you -26 to 3 decimal places, 0.565 degrees. But please, this is not the answer. Now, let me show you why I'm saying this is not the answer. As I said, this is not the answer. So now we got minus theta is equal to -26.565. So the answer that we got is, because it's negative, is just below it is that angle. As you can see, it's small and acute, but your aim is to find the other side of the angle. And the other side of the angle, as you can see now, you are forming a straight line. You must say 180 minus 26.565, so that you'll get now that particular angle that you're looking for. So in this case, therefore, our theta is 180 minus 26.565, then you'll get 153.435. That is the answer then that they would have expected in that case. Now let us move on to the next question, question number 5. It says, on a separate system of axes, sketch the following graphs indicating the intercepts on the axis. So the first one is, they are giving you x is equal to minus square root of 16 minus y squared. Now, I just want to show you that this is the equation of a circle. If I can literally square both sides and square both sides, I will have x squared is equal to 16 minus y squared, because this negative will fall off and the square root will fall off. Now, it will be taking y to the other side. It will be x squared plus y squared is equal to 16, which is 4 squared. So in this case, you are having a circle. If you have to sketch a circle, and that circle, you will have a 4 minus 4. This is what you'll be having, and this will be your y, and that will be your x. That is the diagram of the circle. Now, they are saying, if you look at the question, x with a negative. So they are saying x must only be negative. So in this case, you are going to draw the graph, the same circle, but you are going to focus only on the negative side. That is what they needed, where x is negative. And you can see x is negative in this direction. So now, the question is, what were you supposed to draw in this particular shape or in this particular graph? They expected you to draw a line. Of course, you must use your ruler. Then, let me do that, because I'm not supposed to. Now, you must start your line. I'll use a different. From that point, it's your 4. From this point, it's your -4. It's your -4. So you are supposed to draw a semicircle like that. But remember, you must either you're using your compass or a coin. That is so that when you go through it, it will become a full circle, but you don't have to draw the dotted line. What they needed to see was the half of the circle, and they said indicating intercepts. The intercept they want to see that 4, they want to see that -4, they want to see that -4. So that is 5.1.1. Let's move on to 5.1.2. Now they are saying draw x is equal to y squared. So also should have practiced this graph during your, this is my y, this is my x. So if you practice this graph, you can see that it is a graph that is shaped like that. So this graph is the one, as you can see, when x increases, when y is increasing slowly, x is increasing exponentially. So that is what is happening. So that is the shape of the graph that you're expecting to draw in that line, but you need to revise them. Then it says figure 2 shows the graph of f of x is equal to x squared minus 6x plus 9. Find the coordinates of the turning points A and B. Now, as we are going to be working on this, but one thing that you need to quickly do is expand that bracket to say f of x is equal to x squared minus 6x plus 9. If you open it up, it will be x cubed minus 6x squared plus 9. Right. So now plus 9x. Sorry about that. So now what you need to do, if this is your f of x, then you can now find the derivative of x. It will be, remember, there is a 1 there, so it's 1, 3 drops, x, 3 minus 1, plus, minus a 6, it's a negative sign, minus 6, you drop a 2, x, 2 minus 1, plus 9, you drop a 1. So this becomes, if you simplify it, 3x squared minus 12x plus 9. That's what you are now having in that. So now what you must also remember, these are already 6 marks, then you'll get marks from this for finding f prime x. Remember, you are finding dy. This is same as saying dy over dx. That's what you are doing. You are finding the derivative of that. But now, what you must remember also is that a and b are turning points. So, at t p f prime x is equal to 0. So, in actual fact, then it means this f of x, you must equate it to 0 and solve for x. So if you solve for x, as you said, you'll be having now 3x squared. So you'll be having to divide by 3 on all the sides, because 3 is common. There is a 4, there is a 3. So what you'll have is x squared minus 4x plus 3 is equal to 0. And when you solve it using the product sum method, you'll see that you'll have x minus 3, x minus 1 is equal to 0. For x is equal to 3 or x is equal to 1. So you've got 2 values of x, but that's not the final answer. So you come back now to find the y value. So when x is equal to 3, you find the y value. What is the y value? You say f of 3, and then you go back to the original equation. Remember, the original equation is that x squared minus 6x plus 9. So now you are putting a 3, which is 3. And then you are going to put your 3 squared minus 6, 3 plus 9. And if you use a calculator, it's a 0. And then you say when x is equal to 1, f of 1 is equal to 1, 1 squared minus 6, 1 plus 9, and you are getting a 4. So now let's write the coordinates there. So these coordinates, in this one, the coordinates when x is 3, y is 0. Here, when x is 1, y is 4. Now, let us look at the diagram that you are given. It says when x is 0, when x is 3, y is 0. So you can see between A and B, where y is 0, B is the one that has got 0 coordinates, which is 3 and 0. This one is the one that has got 1 and 4, as you can see. So A is 1, you can see x is 1 here, and there is a 4 here. Here, x can be 3, but y is 0. So A is 1, 4. The final answer, remember, that's how you must conclude it. And B is 3, 0. They will expect you, because the question was find the coordinates of the turning points A and B. So don't just leave your answer as 3, 0, 1, 4. You must tell us which one is your A and which one is your B. Let us move on to the last part of this calculus question. It says determine dy over dx of f of x is equal to, let me write it down. Here f of x is minus 4 square root x plus 1 over 2x squared. Then it says using the rules of differentiation, leave the answer with positive exponents and insert form. So if I can simplify this, this is same as minus 4x. Now using the laws of exponents, square root is same as to the power half, plus 1 over 2, also using the laws of exponents, x 1 over 2. For me to take the x to the top, I must introduce a negative sign. These are laws of exponents. So this is my normal f of x. Now my f prime x, when I'm now differentiating, it will be minus 4. I drop down a 2. Remember the rules of differentiation. X 1 over 2 minus 1 plus 1 over 2. I drop down a negative 2. X minus 2 minus 1. So our aim now is to simplify that. And then when you're simplifying that, you are now going to get minus 2 x to the power minus 1 over 2 minus, that will cancel, x to the power negative 3. Now, in general, this is the answer, but you are going to lose 2 marks or so if you don't simplify that, because the question says leave your answer with positive exponents. Now, you can see that you have got a negative exponent and a negative exponent, number 1. So, and insert form. So, let's now put our answer with positive exponents. So, if you're putting your answer with positive exponents, I will write it again. If I can, because of space, I can erase the top part so that you can see now how to write your final answer. So f prime x is equal to, now positive exponent is minus 2 over x to the power half minus 1 over x to the power 3. That's what they mean by positive exponents. Now all the exponents now, they are what? They are positive. But again, that's not the answer. And then they are saying insert form. So if you leave it like that, you might lose marks, because this is same as minus 2. This continue now. It's supposed to be square root of x. That's the sides. Minus 1 over x to the power of 3. Then the answer that they needed in that particular case is the one that is shown now. Then you are going to get all of your marks correct. Let us move on now to look at question 6, which is the last part of the question paper, and it always focuses on trigonometry. It says determine the values of A that will satisfy the following equation. So what are you given there? You are given cosec alpha is equal to cot 20 degrees, and they are giving you alpha, and they are giving you the range of alpha. Your answer must be between 90 and 360 degrees. Now what you must also remember, what is cosec? Cosec is 1 over sine alpha. You can find that even in your question, in your what you call formulas. Go to your formulas, you'll find that, and cot, you'll discover that is 1 over 1020, because your calculator does not have cosec, it does not have cot, but it's 1 over 1020. So when you have done that, you can now simple cross multiply. You can see that if you cross multiply 1 times sine, it means sine alpha is equal to 1 times 10, which is 1020. So what is alpha? Alpha is equal to arc sine 1020. It's also fine for you to find 1020. You'll have numbers with lots of decimals, but the problem there is rounding off, and then that number that you get is the one that you put instead of 1020. So if you put sin alpha is equal to 1020. Now alpha is equal to arc sin, as you can see that, and then your answer that you're going to get is 21.344 degrees. So that's the answer that the calculator will give. But now remember, they are saying alpha must be from 90. So this is less than 90, so it is not the answer because it's not above 90. So now we look also at another angle. Now the other angle that you can look at is 180 minus 21.344, which is equal to 158.656 degrees. That is the value that is between 90 and 360. Now you might ask yourself, where am I getting that? If I can actually draw back my, remember all students, if I can use a different pen actually, all students take chemistry. Now you'll remember that in the first one you have got your theta, in the second one you've got 180 minus theta. Hence we said 180 minus theta, which was 21.344. Hence here we said that's where sine or sin alpha is positive. So sin is positive in the first quadrant as well as in the second quadrant. Then the answer therefore is that 158.656. Let us move on to look at 6.2. It says make use of a diagram to determine the value of 1 minus 2 cos squared A over 10A plus cosec B, and A plus B is equal to 90 degrees. And also you are given that 5 sine B is equal to 3. Now the first thing that you need to do is to use all the information that you are given to make so that you can find the values of 10 and cos and sine A as well as B. But as they said make use of a diagram. So the first thing that you're given is 5 sine B is equal to 3. Now for you to find sine B, you divide both sides by 5. Then you've got sin B or sine B is equal to 3 over 5. So this is this sin B is the one that is going to help you to come up with what they say to make use of a diagram. So when they're saying make use of a diagram, you're going to use the information that you just found for sin B. Now let me draw the diagram for that. I'll use a different color. So you are having, remember it's a sketch, but I will encourage you to use a ruler. I'll encourage you to always use a ruler. But this is a diagram with the right angle diagram. That will be our P, and then R here, and then what we have is X, and what we have is Y. Now here is a Y that we have. Now if you still remember, what is sin P? Sin P is equal to Y over R. That is sin P. Or you can always remember sin P is opposite over hypotenuse. So any of these is the same. The opposite in this case is Y and the hypotenuse is R. So now if you can match, you can see that sin P, the Y is represented by 3 and the R is represented by 5. So it means R here is equal to a 5 and the Y is equal to a 3. Now how do you find X? You find X using the Pythagoras theorem. The theorem says R squared is equal to X squared plus Y squared. Now if you can find X squared, it will be X squared, or X is equal to square root of R squared minus Y squared, which is equal to, it will be a plus or minus, which is plus or minus square root of, what is R squared? It's 5 squared minus 3 squared. And if you use a calculator in that, you're going to get a plus or minus 4. So in this case here, X, as you can see, X is on the positive side. It is a positive 4 because a negative 4 will be on that side. So the one that you choose is the one for positive 4. So now you have got your diagram drawn in which R is equal to a 5, Y is equal to 3, and X is equal to 4. That's what they meant by make use of a diagram. Now, the next thing that you are given now is for you to find, remember, before I go on, this is your A. If that is B, this is your A. Why? Because they gave a condition that A plus B is equal to 90 degrees. So already you have a right angle triangle here, which is 90. So it means B and A will also add up to 90. That is a 90 degrees. So A and B will add up to 90. So now, if you move on with that, what you know at this stage, you know that sine or sin P is, we are given 3 over 5. That one you know. And then also at the same time, now you have to find what is 10A. So now how do we find 10A? Now 10A is equal to, now if you look at the diagram 10A, now in this case, if I can draw back the diagram, we are having something like this, in which case this is your A, and this was 5, this is a 3, this is a 4, and that's a 90. Now if you want to find 10A, now 10A is opposite, it's opposite over adjacent. 10A is equal to, in this case, which one is the opposite side? The opposite side is 4, and then the adjacent side is 3. That is your 10A. Now if you've got a 10A, what about cot A? Now with cot A is equal to, why am I finding cot A? Because my question has got cot squared A. So what is cot A? If 10A is 4 over 3, cot is the opposite, is 3 over 4, because it is the inverse of 10A. So 10A is 4 over 3, cot A is 3 over 4. The two are the inverse. Now with that, I can now go back to my question. My question now says 1 minus 2 cos squared. If I write down my question again, it says now you're supposed to solve 1 minus 2 cot squared A all over 10a plus cosec b. So using the information we're given, it will be 1 minus 2. Now cot A is 3 over 4 squared over 10a is 4 over 3 plus now cosec b. Now again, coming back, if sin b or sin b, this was sin b. Now the question is, what is cosec b? Now cosec b is also an inverse of sin b, which is now going to be 5 over 3 because it's an inverse. Just like 10a and cot A, sin b and cosec b is an inverse. So you're going to have now plus 5 over 3. Then you can input your calculator. From my calculator I get minus 1 over 24. That is the solution to that particular problem. Now moving on a proof, it says prove that cos squared, given that, is equal to 2 sine squared x. Now in this proof, a few things that I want you to remember is it's always good to refer to your trigonometry. You need to have a background of your trig, but if you still remember, cos 180 plus x, if you use your trig, this is same as is in the third quadrant. Cos is negative, is minus cos x. You can refer to my previous lesson on the trigonometry. Now, which means cos squared 180 plus x is equal to minus cos x squared, which is equal to cos squared x. That's what is happening. Also same thing with 10 360 minus x. This is in the fourth quadrant and 10 is negative. It is minus 10x. Now 10 squared by the same way, 10 squared 360 minus x is equal to minus 10x squared, which is equal to 10 squared x. Now which means from the given question, where there is cos squared, you are now going to put cos squared 180 plus x is the same as cos squared x, and 10 squared 360 minus x is same as 10 squared 3x. So as you can see, I'm focusing on my left hand side. So when I'm proving, I'll say left hand side means I'm gonna take the left hand side, which is cos squared 180 plus x 2 plus 10 squared 360 minus x. Now that's my left hand, which is equal to, it reduced to cos squared x, remember, and 2 plus 10 squared x. Now with that we will continue. Remember, what is 2? 2 is same as 1 plus 1, so I'll rewrite it now as cos squared x. Now where there is a 2, I'll say 1 plus 1 plus 10 squared x. Now why am I doing that? I'm going to remind you of a law here. Remember the law, 1 plus 10 squared x, it's a rule in trig from your formulas, is sec squared x. So I split 2 into 1 plus 10 squared, so which means that is sec squared. So now you continue, you are going to have cos squared x multiplying 1 plus sec squared x. Okay, now which is same as, you open up that bracket, cos squared will multiply and cos squared will multiply, it will become cos squared x plus cos squared x sec squared x, which is equal to Now if you continue it will be cos squared x plus, again, if I can have my side note here, remember sec squared x is equal to 1 over cos squared x. So this is same as, using my red pen, this is same as cos squared x over cos squared x over cos squared x, which is equal to, you cancel that, you're going to get cos squared x plus 1. But again, also another side note, remember sine squared x plus sine squared plus cos squared x is equal to 1, meaning cos squared x is equal to 1 minus sine squared x. Now look at this carefully. Where there is cos squared, I'm going to put 1 minus sine squared x plus 1, which is 1 plus 1 is 2 minus sine squared x, which is equal to my right hand side. So if you go backward, it says 2 minus sine squared x. So we have proven that that limits to 2 minus sine squared x. So that is that. Now moving on to the last 6.4, it says figure 3 shows triangle ABC with AB is equal to 50, BC is equal to 100, and B is equal to 45 degrees. Determine the length of AC. Now, given that it's 3 marks usually, you can also see that this is a cosine rule. We are using a cosine rule. Now, what is the cosine rule in this case? With the cosine rule, remember in this diagram, the A is the small a, is the small b, and this is the small c. So with the cosine rule, you want to find AC. So AC is b squared is equal to a squared plus c squared minus 2ac cos b, that angle b. So now b squared is equal to your a squared, in this case is 100 squared plus 50 squared minus 2 times 100 times 50 cos 45. Now if you simplify that, it will give you 5428. I just calculated it, 0.9322 decimal places. That's your b squared. So how do you find your b? You square root both sides so that you get your b now is equal to 73.681 meters. Remember, as they say it, you must leave your answer to 3 decimal places if it is not specified. Now, looking at question 6.5, it says the sketch in figure 4 represents the graph of f of x is cos ax and g of x is cos bx, where the angle x is between 0 and 180. A, B, C are the points of intersection of f and g. K and T are the maximum and minimum points of g and f respectively. Determine the values of a and b. Now I've gone ahead and already wrote something on the screen, but what I want you to notice is these values of 30, 60, 90, 120, 150 and 180. Why? Because it's divided between 0 and 180. Also, now if you want to find the first one, cos ax, you can see one value that I chose is 90 there. To say cos a, with the value that you want to find, and x is 90, is equal to 0. Here you have got 2 points in which x is 90 and y is 0. Now if you solve that, remember, it is same as a is arc cos 90, and a is arc cos 0. Arc cos 0 is 90, then you get your a is equal to 1. You do the same thing with g of x. It says you choose a value. In this case, I chose a value here, and the points there are x is 30, y is 0. So cos b 30 is equal to 0. Now 30p is arc cos 0. If you do arc cos 0 is 90. So 30p is 90 and p is equal to 3. Now we have come to the end of the lesson for Mathematics N3 for the July 2018 paper. And again, you can go back to the whole solutions so that you can be able to see where or other suggested solutions that can help you in the exam that you'll be writing. Now, if should you request more of these videos, as I mentioned previously, you can request them on the information that is shown on the screen, and we'll be able to gladly help you. We just sell them for a fraction of a price. We have come to the end of our lesson. See you again next time. My name is Confident. Thank you.